Joining me in our Washington studio is Chidanand Rajghatta, a U.S.-based editor for the Times of India. Chidanand, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
So, resounding election victory for Modi, better than expected. Are you surprised by how wide the margin of victory was for him?
Yes, I think it surpassed anybody's expectation, probably including BJP's own internal calculations, although I did hear the figure 300 only for BJP from their party president, I think. But even then, a lot of it is set for public consumption, but this turned out to be accurate, and it is spectacular. It's beyond the assessment of many, many analysts that I read.
How much do you think Modi's focus on a strong Hindu identity for India and really economic growth play a role in his victory?
Big role, obviously. But the economic promises, this is his second term now, he's one of it. And I think his performance on the economic front in the first term was underwhelming. But despite that, people still went to him because of precisely the nationalist card that you mentioned. It also has to do with the lack of credibility among India's opposition. It was a fragmented opposition. It was a very opportunistic opposition. They tried to get together just to defeat the BJP. I think the people saw through that. And most of all, the points they made about corruption did not ring a bell because A, Modi is seen as incorruptible. He's a bachelor. I mean, he's a single man and has no dynasty surrounding him, whereas most of the opposition have, sons, children, nephews. Well, so they were seen as lacking credibility on the corruption issue.
Let me go back to the nationalistic tone, strong Hindu identity that we really focused during the campaign. Is that going to be a problem in terms of, Muslims and the minorities in India? Could it cause a possible backlash, and how is he going to unify in this country?
I don't know if it'll cause a problem. Definitely Muslims and minorities will feel under siege for a while. But the fact is, this is not the first BJP government. It's Modi's second term. And before that, there was the Vajpayee government spread across 6 years. And it wasn't as if Muslims got totally sidelined. It's more pronounced now. And there are more radical elements who have come to the fore. Some of them are plain crazy. There are fringe elements who have gradually come into the mainstream.
Surely not all Muslims in India are crazy.
No, I mean on the Hindu nationalistic side.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay. Sorry, I misunderstood you.
Right. So there are, very crazy Hindu nationalists who have come, fringe elements who have come to the fore. The most prominent is Sadhvi Pragya Thakur, who won in Bhopal. And so it's seen as mainstreaming of extremist views. But there is still a large core of, BJP and, NDA, which is relatively moderate. And in his victory speech, I saw Prime Minister Modi himself struck a fairly conciliatory tone, saying he'll be happy to carry everyone along.
The country.
And I hope that's true.
Before we run out of time, I have to ask you in terms of foreign policy, what do you expect in terms of India's relations with its neighbors, Pakistan, and of course, China as well?
Right. So, you can see that there's a pattern across the world that, electorates seem to prefer strong, assertive leaders, muscular foreign policy. It's true of India. It's true of the United States, in Brazil, China, Russia, all over the world. There's this whole, sense of, I call it a nationalism plus nativism resurgent. So he will, of course, safeguard India's interests, but the most prominent foreign relations is with the United States, and I saw President Trump's tweet just before I got here, and he thinks that US and India will have a strong relationship, which was begun in the first term. With China, I think, Prime Minister Modi has had on and off good, up and down with President Xi. But I expect that India will play a careful balancing role between India and between China and the United States. I don't think India will be a cat's paw of the US. China is, after all, a neighbor of India, and you can't wish away neighbors. And I think the two countries can work together.
All right, we'll leave it there. Chidanand Rajghatta, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.